Naruto, Unlocking Genius with 10 Skill Bars. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 86, Reel at the End of the Mission. If you don't behead me, what shall we do next? Should we continue to carry out the plan to assassinate that guy? Hear the Chinese spoken in the ear. Don't stop and stay where you are. Do you want to continue? Live the kind of dark, always in the dark day. I hope that the ninja world will no longer have the title of Mist Shinobi. Bujan smiled again. He understood that Brat was giving himself a chance to live again. After meeting Shiyu, I will understand one thing: even if I don't cut it, the ninja world no longer belongs to him. A new generation of genius monsters appeared, and it was nothing more than a stepping stone for people like them to stay in the ninja world. No. Zabuza looked at Bai in front of him. After dying once, Zabuza already knew what he wanted. He just wanted to find a place to live with Bai 197. Let's leave the land of waves. Shiro. When Yenbai was very surprised, he glanced at Zabuza very puzzledly. Then Zabuza, sir, let's go next. Go to a place where no one can be seen and live a normal life. Yes. Bai smiled, with tears in his eyes. At this moment, Shiyu is holding his head in his hands, and he is very comfortable on the unfinished bridge in the land of waves. I don't know if I will make the right choice if I don't kill that guy again. If he shows up to trouble me again, I will have to kill him. By that poor child, I hope he will cherish it if he doesn't be beheaded again. But having said that, Shiyu still has a doubt. Bai, is it a boy? Hey, don't cut this taste. Thinking of that scene, Shiyu couldn't help shivering. And Sasuke, who kept staring at Shiyu, was stunned for a moment. Are you cold? No. Shiyu answered. Sasuke looked at him suspiciously. Then why were you shivering just now? Ah. I thought of some scary pictures. Okay, screen? Shiyu is not even afraid of Jonin, with terrifying swordsmanship plus penetration, and because of the fact that he does not cut again, he has mastered the opponent's silent killing technique. Does such a guy have anything to be afraid of? Sasuke felt incredible. Okay, you can't go any further from here, come with me. Several people followed Dasna down from the bridge and came to a pier. It looks more like a village here. The land of waves makes a living by shipping goods at the docks, and it is normal to live in the docks. Okay, we will send you here safely, then our mission will be considered complete. Shiyu said. But Dasna, who heard this, quickly stopped Shiyu. Wait a minute, although you have dealt with the person who assassinated me, what if the other party sends someone to kill me again? Sasuke looked at Dasna. Your entrustment is only for us to escort you to the land of waves, not for us to stay in the land of waves to protect you forever. Dasna hesitated and couldn't speak. Shiyu smiled. Okay, how many days are left for your bid? Hearing that, Dasna showed 3 fingers. 3 days. Just 3 days. Okay. For 3 days, we will stay for another 3 days. After 3 days, the bridge will be completed and our task will be completed. As for whether you will be assassinated later, we don't care about our business. Okay, as long as the bridge can be completed, it doesn't matter if I die. Shiyu's decision made Sasuke a little unhappy. Now he is only thinking about going back to the village, and then immediately began to practice and strengthen his strength. He didn't have any place to get started with this task at all, and Shiyu solved it all. The gap in strength made Sasuke feel that every second of delay is a waste of time. Why do you need to protect him for a few days? Our mission has been completed. If you want to stay, you can stay. Seeing Sasuke, who lost his temper, Shiyu smiled at Naruto. Naruto, let's practice these days. Complete the previous ninjutsu as soon as possible, as well as the training of chakra control. Naruto nodded. Okay. Idle is idle anyway. Sasuke on the side now has a weird expression. He looked at Naruto. What ninjutsu? Humph. Of course, it's a very powerful ninjutsu. As long as I learn this ninjutsu, you will no longer be my opponent, Sasuke. This sentence is not an opponent, which makes Sasuke's expression even more wrong. He looked at Shiyu, opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he was too embarrassed to say it. Shiyu doesn't want him anymore. Okay, stay for 3 days, we will train here for 3 days, I will guide you to practice ninjutsu. I actually know a lot of ninjutsu. Secretly, Kakashi froze for a moment. Shiyu knows a lot of ninjutsu? Is this possible? Not to mention where Shiyu learned ninjutsu, how could he master too much ninjutsu at his age? However, I think the most suitable ninjutsu for you should be the one used by Mr. Kakashi during the battle for the bell. Kakashi in the dark suddenly had black lines on his face. Shiyu even counted himself. Mr. Kakashi, come out. There is no danger here, and you can't observe anything if you observe it. Why don't you come and guide Sasuke to practice? You are our teacher, it is your responsibility to teach us. Swish. Kakashi appeared in front of the three of them. My task now is to observe and record your performance on this mission. It doesn't affect it. You observe and guide Sasuke to practice at the same time, the best of both worlds. Kakashi stood there without saying a word. It seems to be so. At this time, Shiyu smiled, and isn't the observation mission over this time? The reason why we are allowed to perform this mission alone is to test us with Zabuza. Zaibu has been dealt with. Mr. Kakashi's observation task should be over by 5.3. Hearing this, Kakashi was surprised. How did Shiyu guess it? Before the Lord Third Generation asked himself to accept this task, and used Mist Shinobi's Ghost Man to test Shiyu's real strength, Kakashi was also puzzled at that time, and it is the same now. How did you guess that? Shiyu smiled. It's very simple. Teacher Kakashi was supposed to lead us to carry out the mission, but he let us do it by ourselves, and when Bujan appeared, Teacher Kakashi didn't seem surprised. Kakashi was surprised. At that time, Shiyu was concentrating on dealing with Zabuza. There was still time to pay attention to his emotional changes. No wonder Third Generation dared to use Zabucho as Shiyu's whetstone. It's just why the Lord Third Generation did this? Does he know Shiyu's strength, or does he not know Shiyu's strength? Episode 87, The Weakest Person in Class 7, after Dasna arranged a place for the four of them. Naruto couldn't wait to ask Shiyu, do you want to continue training? I still can't complete the last step. Rasengan's last step was still unable to be completed. It seems that he didn't have enough control over chakra, and he couldn't meet the requirements for completing the last step. Then let's practice chakra control. Chakra control training. Kakashi glanced at Shiyu. This kid seems to know the training method of chakra control. Came to a forest not far from the back of the port. There are water and trees near the sea, which is very suitable for practicing tree climbing and treading water. About chakra's control training, the first one is to climb a tree. Climb a tree? Naruto and Sasuke frowned. Do you still need training for climbing trees? However, Shiyu jumped directly onto the tree trunk, stepping on the tree trunk with both feet, and his body was so directly parallel to the ground. Seeing Shiyu walking vertically, looking at the top of the tree very easily. That's tree climbing. Kakashi nodded. Sure enough, Shiyu knew about tree climbing training. And looking at Shiyu like this, he has completed this training very well. The control over chakra is subtle. Can it still be like this? How is this possible? Sasuke asked. It's very simple. Concentrate chakra on the soles of your feet, and then experience the secrets of climbing for yourself. Saying that, Shiyu has already reached the top of the tree. One turned over and fell easily. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to start my training too. Naruto nodded and immediately started trying. Sasuke on the side looked at Shiyu. He was very curious about what kind of training Shiyu himself was going to do. However, Shiyu just came to the side slowly, and then began to do the most basic physical training. Kakashi didn't expect that Shiyu's own training is this? It's just push-ups, sit-ups, etc. Is this kid trying to be lazy? At this stage, Shiyu's physique has not yet reached the standard. Although there are 3 advanced physical skills on the passive skill bar at the same time, Shiyu's physical fitness will be enhanced all the time. But it still can't reach the height required to integrate the 2 blood successor boundaries. According to the evaluation of the Great Sage, if it only relies on passive operation, it will take about 10 days. If Shiyu does not take the initiative to cultivate, he will have to wait for such a long time. If you take the initiative to practice, you may be able to complete it in about 2 days. It just so happens that he will stay in the Kingdom of Waves for 3 more days. Taking advantage of this time, Shiyu intends to directly enhance his physique to the level required by the Great Sage, so that after returning to Konoha, he can directly start the fusion of Boil Style and Ice Escape. As the training of the 3 began, Kakashi also began to read seriously. The morning passed quickly. Naruto and Sasuke kept trying, and they didn't know when they started to compete secretly. Finally managed to climb to the top of the tree at the same time. The 2 looked tired and out of breath, but both of them could feel the effect of climbing trees. Control over chakra has been taken to the next level. But when Sasuke looked back at Shiyu, he found that Shiyu was still doing physical training, and his speed and posture were exactly the same as at the beginning. Has this guy been working out all morning? Keeping the same movement, the same speed, and the same frequency all morning? Doesn't this guy get tired? Even Shiyu's breathing didn't seem to change at all. Sasuke and Naruto looked at Shiyu like they were looking at a monster. For a whole morning, they were exhausted just practicing climbing trees, but Shiyu had been practicing physical strength, and it seemed that there was no problem at all. Not a drop of sweat. Kakashi had also noticed early on. This kind of training intensity is even more pervert than Guy. We're done climbing the tree, next. Sasuke was talking to Shiyu, but before he finished speaking, Shiyu replied directly, the next step is the training of treading water. You can let Mr. Kakashi guide you in detail. 1. The two turned to look at Kakashi, who was reading a book. Kakashi closed the book helplessly, come with me. By the river, Kakashi releases the training method of treading water to the two, which is basically the same as climbing a tree, concentrating chakra on the soles of the feet and standing on the water. However, because water is fluid, the chakra will also flow, and the speed of the water flow will change, and the flow of the chakra will also change accordingly. This training was much easier for Naruto and Sasuke. After all, you already know how to control it, and the next step is to adapt. After only 3 hours of continuous falling into the water, the two of them could barely manage to stand on the water and try to walk a certain distance. The two basically practiced for a whole day, and they returned to the shore to take a rest. Looking at Shiyu on the other side, he is still practicing and his movements and speed remain unchanged. Won't this guy be tired? It was the first time Naruto felt that someone's physique was even more pervert than his own. Sasuke also silently swallowed his saliva. At first, he looked down on this kind of training, but now it's different. It's been a whole day. Shiyu has been practicing physical strength. He never stopped for a moment, no wonder when he was fighting with Zaibu-Zhan. On the contrary, Shiyu's strength can be overwhelmed without beheading. Is this how Shiyu trains in private? 317, swish swish swish. It's going to be done. It's going to be done. While Sasuke was thinking, an astonishing roar came from beside him. Naruto held the Rasengan in both hands, and it was emitting an extremely dazzling blue light. Even Kakashi was stunned at the moment. That is. Boom. Suddenly, Naruto released the Rasengan against a tree, and the powerful force instantly collapsed the tree into a huge hole, and the big tree also collapsed. A happy smile appeared on Naruto's face. Shiyu also came to Naruto's side at this time. It's finally finished, congratulations. Naruto. Naruto smiled shyly at Shiyu. Sasuke on the side looked at the fallen tree, and then at Naruto. Damn, even Naruto has mastered such a powerful technique. I, Uchiha Sasuke, seem to be the weakest in class 7 right now. It's not too early to see the sky, the last practice of today is to choose body art. Would you like to try fighting with me? I don't use swordsmanship, I only use physical skills to compete. Shiyu's challenge, Naruto is very excited and said no problem. Okay. Let's try it then. Naruto agreed. Shiyu looked at Sasuke beside him, what about you? Do you want to come together? Sasuke's eyes kept shrinking, and he clenched his fists, of course. Episode 88, Sasuke breaks out and Sharingan opens. The first internal battle between the three of the 7th squad is quite interesting. As Shiyu said, he looked at Naruto and Sasuke who were in full swing. Although it was training, Naruto wanted to figure out how far he was from Shiyu. And Sasuke is the same, he wants to prove that he is no worse than Shiyu. Although Shiyu's previous battles have proved how terrifying Shiyu's physical skills are, Sasuke also wants to see how far he is from the opponent. Shiyu looked at the two who were eager to try, and directly raised his hand, come on. Hear Shiyu say start. Naruto rushed up directly, he had just finished training, and now Naruto's physical strength has not fully recovered, but in Naruto's view, Shiyu has been carrying out physical strength training. Shiyu's state should be even worse than him, no matter how bad he is in this state, he won't lose too badly. However, the actual situation is that Shiyu is not consumed at all. Facing Naruto's attack, Shiyu kept retreating backwards, dodging Naruto's attack. Shiyu dodges all punches and kicks. It was even very easy to dodge. Although Naruto's attack is not that strong, but the attack launched by Naruto's desperate energy is not so easy to block. But in front of Shiyu, he really looked like a child losing his temper. Can't cause any damage to Shiyu at all. Shiyu shook his head, Naruto has strength and speed, but Taijutsu's attack is not only strength and speed. Skills are obviously Naruto's shortcoming. So Shiyu directly raised his hand to clasp Naruto's elbow, helping him with the same speed and force area as Naruto. The consecutive moves made Naruto feel that all his attacks were interrupted, even Shiyu was in the middle of his attack. A kick hit his chest, sending Naruto flying straight away. While pursuing strength and speed, don't forget to master the skills. Naruto. Shiyu spoke slowly, and turned to look at Sasuke. Sasuke took a look at Naruto, who was sitting on the ground rubbing his chest, and accelerated towards Shiyu directly. He also understood the battle between Shiyu and Naruto just now, Shiyu was completely giving way to them. Shiyu slowed down and weakened his strength. If not, Naruto would have been dealt with long ago. But even so, Shiyu's skills completely crushed Naruto. Sasuke's shot is not bad in terms of strength and speed, and he also has skills. The offensive is stronger than Naruto's desperate energy. Every time he attacks, he has thought about how to change next and how to deal with the counterattack. But in front of Shiyu, he was still a little immature. Grabbing Sasuke's fist and dragging Sasuke's arm, making his body unbalanced, the next second Shiyu stepped on Sasuke's knee. The leg that made him lift up to attack was pinned down by Shiyu. Standing up with strength, he also kicked Sasuke in the chest, knocking Sasuke back directly. The repelled Sasuke held his chest and looked at Shiyu in surprise, suppressed. I was completely suppressed. Even though Shiyu and Shiyu are the same age, why is Shiyu so strong? Not only swordsmanship, but also conjoined bodywork. Shadow clone technique. Bang bang. Suddenly, a large group of Naruto rushed towards Shiyu from behind. Hundreds of Naruto's clones appeared. Shiyu shook his head helplessly. It's all about Naruto. No matter how many clones you have, it's useless for a real strong man. As he said that, Shiyu directly put into a stance, and the clones charging up from all directions were easily killed by Shiyu with one move. Bang 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 bang. The successive clones turned into white smoke and dissipated. Naruto was also a little anxious. Damn it. Can't do this. Then try this trick again. Swish swish swish. The Rasengan was quickly formed with the help of several clones, and Naruto rushed directly into the crowd, waving the Rasengan to attack Shiyu. And Shiyu, who was dealing with the avatar, was very speechless. Didn't you mean physical training? You even used Rasengan? Naruto smiled. I'm sorry, Shiyu. I want to see how far I am from you, so. Shiyu laughed. Don't forget, I taught you this trick. Stretching out his hand, Shiyu directly and quickly grabbed Naruto's wrist. An attack that can't hit someone is useless. The backhand threw Naruto directly, knocking down a large group of clones. By the way, Rasengan was also on the ground, and the roar of the explosion sounded. Seeing the movement made by Naruto, Sasuke gritted his teeth again. Shadow clone. Rasengan. Naruto, you have mastered so many powerful skills, you surpassed me before I knew it. He stared at Shiyu, who had easily wiped out hundreds of clones in just a few breaths. Sasuke accelerated towards Shiyu again. Noticing Sasuke's movement, Shiyu raised his left hand and put his right hand away. Seeing Shiyu's action, Sasuke's face became even more gloomy. Is this planning to deal with yourself with one hand? He is Uchiha Sasuke, how could he be underestimated like this? He used 2 hands against Naruto, but got 10 hits against himself. Is this contemptuous of yourself? He's a genius, and while the real genius might be Shiyu, it's been Sasuke who's always been called a genius. Frantic punching, Sasuke attacked frantically, his eyes fixed on Shiyu, although Shiyu easily blocked all the attacks with one hand. But Sasuke's eyes were red now, and he refused to stop at all. He wanted to force Shiyu to use both hands. Even if I am weaker than Shiyu, it is absolutely impossible to be inferior to Naruto. For a moment of Muron, Shiyu smiled. Sasuke. Sharingan enabled. A Goyu Sharingan locked Shiyu, and suddenly Sasuke's movements changed. The attack became fiercer, and it was indeed too much for one hand to deal with it. The moment Shiyu reached out his right hand to grab Sasuke's fist, an over-the-shoulder throw knocked Sasuke to the ground. The violent impact finally made Li Zhao's assistant wake up. And he looked at Shiyu's right hand, and smiled on his face. Humph. Your right hand. Shiyu smiled. Congratulations, Sasuke. Open your eyes? What eye-opener? Sasuke was stunned for a moment, and Kakashi also clapped his hands at this time. I never thought that a training session could open the Sharingan, a 12-year-old eye-opener. In the history of Uchiha, only a handful of tribesmen who opened their eyes at this age can do it. Sasuke got up quickly and ran to the bank, looking at himself in the river. In those scarlet eyes, a hooked jade slowly turned. Sharingan. I finally started Sharingan. At this time, Kakashi did not pay attention to Sasuke, but looked at Shiyu. Only one hand against Sasuke? Do you want to provoke Sasuke? Is this kid Shiyu deliberately helping Sasuke to open Sharingan? Episode 89, an unexpected gift returning to Konoha. Kakashi came in front of Shiyu. Did you do it on purpose? Shiyu was looking at the excited Sasuke when he suddenly heard Kakashi's words. Shiyu smiled and didn't answer. And it made Kakashi even more unsure if Shiyu did it on purpose. He turned his head and looked at Naruto, who was still panting. Rasengan, did you teach Naruto? Ah. Yes. How could you? This question still needs to be asked. When I was training chakra to control, I discovered a trick by accident. It is very simple, but powerful. It seems to be very suitable for Naruto to use, so I will teach him. Accidental discovery? Does this mean it is Shiyu's own trick? Impossible, Rasengan Kakashi knows it. It was fourth Hokage who developed this trick at the beginning, but he spent a lot of time developing this trick. How could Shiyu be able to control chakra just because of training? When Kakashi was thinking, he suddenly saw Shiyu raised his hand, and the chakra thread slipped out of Shiyu's hand. And the chakra density that condenses the chakra threads is amazing. I saw Shiyu waving the chakra silk thread, entwining the ninja sword jutsu that Shiyu placed in the distance. 633. The chakra thread directly pulled Zangetsu over, and Shiyu grabbed the middle and hung it behind his waist. Today's practice is almost over, let's go back. Kakashi stared at Shiyu dumbfounded. If just now Shiyu said that it was impossible for him to develop Rasengan Kakashi by accident, now Kakashi seems to be nothing impossible. It is quite a difficult skill to condense chakra into silk threads. And this kind of skill can only be mastered by puppet masters who use puppetry. However, Shiyu should not have learned any puppetry, and he was able to turn chakra into silk threads. And also has a certain physical attack capability. Is this kid a monster? Perhaps the Rasengan was really developed by this kid. Now Shiyu doesn't want to explain too much, it's enough for him to expose his differences bit by bit. You have to give others a process of adaptation. Rasengan can also be regarded as Shiyu's first step, otherwise Shiyu will develop more ninjutsu through the calculation of the great sage in the future, so he can't explain it every time. The title of genius is still there. This can save a lot of trouble. But now Shiyu is a little disappointed that the blood inheritance limit of the pupil technique cannot be obtained through the analysis of the great sage. Great sage, the analysis is complete, the target has reached the eye-opening standard, and it only needs a little stimulation to complete the eye-opening. This is what the saging gave when Shiyu analyzed Sasuke just now. After completing the analysis, Shiyu didn't get Sharingan's blood inheritance limit, but got this sentence instead. But this also made Shiyu discover a new function, that is, the great sage can not only analyze ninjutsu, but also others. At the same time, analyzing others can also discover other people's weaknesses. This is very helpful for combat. Although I didn't get Uchiha's blood inheritance boundary because of this, I finally discovered a new usage of a great sage, which is not bad. And when the four of them return to their residence, a villager waits here for Shiyu et al. The opponent was holding a knife, looking at the knife, Ishur made Kakashi nervous. This is. Seeing Shiyu and others coming back, the other party stood up quickly, who is Master Shiyu? Shiyu froze for a moment, I am. This is a person who entrusted us to give it to you. Shiyu looked at the beheading sword, what does it mean? Who gave it to you? A very beautiful girl. It should be a girl. That should be white. Did he say anything? He said thank you, and said he would do what you wish. Shiyu nodded, looking at the beheading sword in his hand. Psy sent the beheading sword to tell himself, has he chosen a new way of life if he doesn't cut it? So there will never be such a title as Mist Shinobi in the ninja world. Not too bad. I didn't waste my chance to give him another chance. Okay, I see, thank you. The other party shook his head and left. And Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto looked at the beheading sword in Shiyu's hand. Is this from the person who left with Sabuzan? Naruto frowned, why did he give you the sword that will never be cut again? Sasuke was also puzzled, yeah. He has no reason to do that. Hearing this, Shiyu smiled, maybe he let go of his hatred. Said he doesn't want to seek revenge from me anymore? Kakashi on the side also thought about it, perhaps, he thinks that only your swordsmanship is worthy of the ninja sword that is no longer cut. Naruto Sasuke couldn't understand such a thing, but Kakashi still thought it was very possible. Compassion between rivals is normal. Forget it, no matter what he means. Shiyu sealed the blade of never cut into the storage scroll. He already has Zangetsu, no need to decapitate the big one. But it might be useful to collect. In the next time, Shiyu will continue to exercise in the room. Strive to strengthen your physique as soon as possible. For the next 3 days, Shiyu basically spent his body training. With the blessing of the passive skill bar, Shiyu's physique has been enhanced visible to the naked eye. Even with the strengthening of physique, Shiyu's enhancement is not only speed and strength, Shiyu feels that his vitality seems to be stronger. At the same time, new changes occurred in the body. The skin seemed to become tougher, with kunai gently cutting, even yipping could not break Shiyu's skin. But a little force can also cut the skin. But this change makes Shiyu very excited, as long as he keeps practicing, then he may cultivate into an indestructible body of diamond in the future. Ordinary attacks can't even break the defense. 3 days soon came, and Shiyu's physique successfully met the requirements for fusing the two blood successors according to the plan. A group of people returned to Konoha. And Shiyu is also going to return to Konoha, and then start to merge with blood successor limit. What will become of the fusion of Boil style and Ice Escape's power? Shiyu also had some expectations. I can't wait to rush back to Konoha immediately, so I deliberately quickened my pace on the way back. And Sasuke seems to be pestering Kakashi to let Kakashi teach him ninjutsu. Kakashi also agreed, and said that Konoha will teach Sasuke. This made Sasuke very excited, and also hoped to rush back to Konoha quickly. Both Shiyu and Sasuke wanted to return to Konoha as soon as possible, so it only took half a day to return to Konoha from Nami country. Episode 90, Third Generation's Planning and Blood Inheritance Fusion begins. After Shiyu and others submitted the mission report, they went home to rest. Completing a C-level task usually requires 1 day of vacation, but the task that Shiyu and the others completed this time is not a C-level task in the strict sense, it should be called an A-level task. After all, there is a Jonin-level rebellious ninja like Zabuza. The nature of the task can be completely different. But after that things will be handled by Kakashi. Shiyu doesn't want to meddle too much. Inside the Hokage office, Third Generation looked at the report given by Kakashi. He was very surprised and at the same time showed such an expression. Master Third Generation, how did you know that Shiyu hid his strength? Hidden? Third Generation smiled, maybe it's not hidden. With that kid's temperament, it's not a strange thing to pass the exams of a geninist school casually. Kakashi nodded, indeed Shiyu would not be the same as other kids of the same age. It's just a ninja school exam, so it's not a big deal to deal with it casually. And if he really wants to hide, then Shiyu will not take the initiative to stand up this time. So, Third Generation, you are using such a terrifying traitorous ninja as Shiyu's whetstone this time to see his true strength? That's right. Third Generation nodded, I really think so. But Lord Third Generation, how do you know that Shiyu possesses the strength to fight back, and what if Shiyu doesn't have the corresponding strength? Hearing this, Third Generation smiled, isn't there still you? I never thought that this little devil would give me such a big surprise at first, but I just thought that if I don't kill him, I can let this little devil show its full strength. Even if you can't beat it, it won't be a problem if you don't kill it with you. It's just that I didn't expect this kid to possess penetration like Gaifeng. That astonishing swordsmanship combined with penetration, and this time because of Zabuju, this kid has mastered the same silent killing technique as Zabuju. The combination of the three is interesting. Shiyu's strength has far surpassed Genin's level. I'm afraid letting him perform missions with Naruto and Sasuke will not help Shiyu much. No. Third Generation shook his head instead, at this age, with this kind of strength, precipitation is more important than becoming stronger, and you are very clear about the identities of Naruto and Sasuke. Although I have your protection, I am still worried. Now with Shiyu, I can rest assured. Get yourself and Shiyu to protect the village's Jinchuriki. If it's for this purpose, then it's okay to let Shiyu continue to perform tasks as Genin. It's just that with a genius like Shiyu, there is almost zero help in performing Genin's tasks. Okay, you go down. This time, the mission level has been raised to A level, and the rewards for the mission will be made up for you later. Kakashi nodded. After Kakashi left, Third Generation smiled, looks like that idiot Danzo really came after you last time, but I didn't expect you to be so powerful, and a Chunin level elite died instead. With such strength and Kakashi watching from the side, it is basically impossible for Danzo to touch Shiyu. As for putting Shiyu in the 7th class, in addition to using Shiyu's power to protect Naruto, it is also to use Naruto to influence Shiyu. Kill two birds with one stone. If it succeeds, in the near future, there will be 3 talented experts in Konoha. Nine Tails Jinchuriki Naruto, Uchiha Genius Sasuke, and now added Oni Shiyu. Konoha produced Sannin under his own training, and there will be 3 monsters in the future. Third Generation watched Shiyu's intelligence. Practice chakra control, accidentally develop Rasengan. Is this little guy's talent really so terrifying? Hiruzen expressed some doubts, but he thought that after Shiyu fought against the ghost, he immediately understood the opponent's silent killing skills. It doesn't seem too unacceptable for such a talent to develop Rasengan by mistake. But at the moment, Shiyu is doing something even more unacceptable. That is to carry out the fusion of blood successor boundaries. After returning to Konoha, Shiyu did not go home to rest, but went directly outside Konoha village and found a secluded place. After all, no one should disturb the next thing to do. In a rocky forest, Shiyu sat cross-legged on a stone pillar. Great sage, now that the conditions for integration have been met, you can start trying to integrate. asking for flowers. Great Sage, chakra control, escapism strength, and physical strength have all met the requirements. Do you want to start the calculation? Start. Great Sage, according to the development process of Shuuji boundary, analyze the calculation. The host needs to master the skill of simultaneous seeding and then limit. This technique is called one mind with two uses. If you successfully master the technique of dual purpose, then the host can not only be used to integrate the two blood inheritance boundaries, but also can be distracted and do two things at the same time at any time. This made Shiyu a little surprised. There is such a requirement for the fusion of the two blood successors. However, the skill of using one mind and two tasks, no matter whether the fusion is successful or not, seems to be very helpful to him. Then let's start calculating the skills of double tasking. 0. Great Sage, in calculus, estimated completion time 40 hours, almost 2 days? So long? Great Sage, host can practice dual attribute nature transformation to speed up the calculation progress. Okay. Come on then. Dual attribute nature transformation, this is the skill mastered when developing blood successor boundary. However, it seems that it has no other use except for the development of blood follower boundaries. Now it can be used to speed up the calculation progress is very good. Flames in one hand, gusts of wind in the other. Shiyu sat cross-legged on the stone pillar and began to practice dual attribute nature transformation. At the same time, the passive skill bar has also been changed. Passive skills 1 to 3 are still unshakable, chakra refinement, basic visual illusion, advanced physical skills. Passive skills 4 to 5, 1 is boil style, heat breath blade, 1 is ice escape, freezing moment. The two ninjutsu are not only used to enhance the power of boil style and ice escape, but the most important thing is to enhance the power of these two ninjutsu. The last passive skill column 6 to 7 Shiyu is replaced by the dual attribute nature transformation. Actively releasing the tenfold bonus effect of passive skills once again made Shiyu feel the power of fire style, wind style, and nature transformation growing by leaps and bounds. Shiyu's strongest attribute is water style, other attributes are not strong, just take this opportunity to strengthen other escapism. Wind style and fire style can also be combined to release compound ninjutsu, which is also a good choice. Episode 91, The Amazing Effect of Dual Purpose. Calculating the time, there are still 6 or 7 hours before night. After 6 or 7 hours of practice, I don't know if the calculation can be accelerated until it is completed. And after Shiyu began to practice the dual attribute nature transformation, the calculation speed has been significantly accelerated. Great Sage, according to the current state of host, if you can maintain this state, the calculation will be completed in 5 hours, keep it that way. But a state cannot be maintained forever. Shiyu is a human being and not a machine. Even if it is the same ninjutsu, it is impossible to release the same power twice in a row. But it was only 5 or 6 hours, and he tried his best to persevere, so there should be no problem. As the practice time passed bit by bit, Shiyu felt fire style and wind style. In just 1 hour of practice, the power of the nature transformation 750 of the two escapism techniques has directly doubled. This is much faster than hanging on the passive skill bar to enhance the speed. The increased power of nature transformation will also increase the power of Shiyu's ninjutsu. Not only can it speed up the calculation, but it can also enhance the power of nature transformation. This kind of cultivation is too cost-effective in Shiyu's view. Spend the same amount of time and gain on both sides. Coupled with the obvious improvement effect, Shiyu feels that his state has been perfectly maintained. Even after 4 hours, the voice of the Great Sage sounded. Great Sage, completion of calculations. Congratulations to host for getting a new skill, use it with your heart. In an instant, a new memory appeared in Shiyu's mind, and at the same time, his body seemed to have some changes. Stopping the practice of nature transformation, Shiyu wants to try the specific effect of the so-called dual purpose. First try to draw the original with one hand and the square with the other, and do both sides at the same time. However, controlling both hands to perform different movements at the same time, there is no jerky feeling at all, as if it is very relaxed. Really can. What about releasing two ninjutsu at the same time? Shiyu thought about it for a while, and then came as soon as he said it. Water style water dragon bomb. Wind style beast wave palm. Boom. Swish. The surging water flowed from behind, directly forming a water dragon and hitting the stone pillar in front of it fiercely. At the same time, on the other side, Shiyu clapped both palms facing forward at the same time. A strong wind swept away, and at the same time, there were wind blades in it. The stone pillar was first impacted by the water dragon, directly collapsed, and then cut by the sudden wind blade. Two kinds of ninjutsu are released at the same time. Not one after the other, but at the same time, there is really no problem. Feeling the effect of double tasking, Shiyu immediately pulled out the ninja sword Zijutsu, while raising his hand to use the sword technique of water breath. Print on one side. Water style, great waterfall technique. This is the ninjutsu analyzed from Zabuza's body before. Now Shiyu also wants to try the power of this ninjutsu, but when the big waterfall technique emerges, the terrifying water bursts directly from Shiyu's feet. It swept away fiercely towards this rocky forest. At the same time, Shiyu's water-breathing swordsmanship also broke out. Water wheel. Boom. Shiyu released an astonishing flow of water from the blade in his front hand, cutting all the stone pillars in front of him, and then the huge waves formed by the water flow sweeping the waterfall technique directly hit them and submerged all the stone pillars. Standing on the highest stone pillar, watching the surging water flow around. This kind of ability to focus on two purposes is simply amazing. When you perform your own swordsmanship, it will not affect your release of water-style ninjutsu. This also means that when performing water-breathing, ninjutsu can also be used to assist in combat, making it easier for oneself to deal with emergencies. Good. Holding the knife in one hand, Shiyu stared at the boulder in the distance. Water-breathing 3 types Lulu dancing. Water-style, water dragon bomb technique. A ferocious water dragon appeared from under Shiyu's feet, and its twisted body began to rush towards the boulder. At the same time, Shiyu's figure also disappeared instantly, leaving after images. As if stepping on the body of a water dragon, Shiyu moved forward rapidly. In the next second, Shiyu's figure interlaced with the boulder, and the water splashed on the rock. Immediately afterwards, it slammed heavily on the boulder. Sword and ninjutsu hit the target at the same time. Boom. With a loud noise, the rock exploded directly, and at the same time, it was divided into countless gravels of different sizes and scattered in all directions. Shiyu turned around and looked back. Looking at his masterpiece so strong. This trick should be renamed, Breath of Water, 3 Shapes, changed to Water Dragon Flowing Dance. With the skill of one mind and 2 uses, one's own attack is stronger. The combination of swordsmanship and ninjutsu has become positive. Otherwise, controlling the water dragon bomb while performing sword skills is not as simple as it seems. But I don't know what will happen if I cast 2 blood succession boundaries at the same time. Shiyu's eyes narrowed slightly. Hold Zangetsu tight and boil style on. Comparable. Hot steam permeated from Shiyu's body, and at the same time steam was rising from Zangetsu. Feeling the boiling of chakra in his body, Shiyu tried to burst into ice escape again. Use ice escape while maintaining boil style. Sizzle. The cold air surged, and suddenly the white smoke permeated from the right half of the body, and settled down. These are the chills. Unlike steam, steam floats upward, but cold air will sink if there is no influence of wind. Half steam and half cold, Shiyu seemed to form a pair of white air wings behind him. The left side of the blade was steaming, but the stone surface was condensed with water mines. However, this state did not last for 3 seconds. Shiyu opened his eyes suddenly, feeling a surge in his body, almost spurting out a mouthful of blood. Hastily stopped the 2 escape techniques. Shiyu frowned. Isn't it possible to use one mind at the same time? Why can't I use 2 kinds of blood succession boundaries at the same time? Great sage, it's not that it can't be used, and it's not that the host can't do it, but that the 2 kinds of blood inheritance limit, the purely excited state, will affect each other, so the host can't maintain it. 5.0 The purely excited state can't be maintained by itself? Shiyu seemed to understand. Grab turning moon boil style, blade of heat breath. Zangetsu was steaming again, while Shiyu was at the distant rock at the same time. Ice escape, frozen moment. Sure enough, the next second, the rock began to freeze rapidly. But the heat breath blade in his hand was not affected. It turned out to be like this. In a purely excited state, the 2 sides affect each other. I can't grasp the balance, so I can't maintain it. But if it is changed to ninjutsu, it will not affect each other. There is no problem in activating the power of 2 blood successors at the same time. Great sage, that's right, but mastering a certain balance between the 2 blood successor boundaries is what needs to be mastered in the next step of merging the blood successor boundaries, the change of the double blood successor boundaries. Episode 92, The Power of Double Changes of Alternating Cold and Heat. The limit of the double blood successor changes, open the limit of 2 blood successors at the same time. There are ninjas in the ninja world with multiple blood succession boundaries, but no one can use the power of 2 blood succession boundaries at the same time. After all, the power of nature transformation is chakra's nature transformation. A new attribute generated by the fusion of 2 chakras with different attributes, and a single blood succession limit cast. From chakra to blood successor limit, the process is already extremely complicated. If you want to use two blood successor limits at the same time, no one can do it. If it is possible to use the power of the two blood succession boundaries at the same time. Shiyu's eyes started to light up just thinking about it. Great sage, let's calculate. What do I need to practice? To speed up the calculation? Great sage, in calculus, estimated calculation time 30 minutes, why is it only 30 minutes? Such a terrifying ability only takes 30 minutes? Great sage, host has successfully mastered the skill of dual purpose, coupled with the change of dual attributes, the data for calculation is enough, and 30 minutes of calculation is not fast. 21, but this time is considered fast for Shiyu. 30 minutes, then I don't have to bother to speed up the calculation. Just wait patiently for 30 minutes. And now it's getting dark, Shiyu is also a little tired and hungry. Just rest for half an hour, take some Bingliang pills, and take a short rest. A fire was lit, and Shiyu made it next to the fire. I took out Bingliang pill and ate one. Although this Bingliang pill can fill my stomach, it has no taste and the taste is not very good. Shiyu was a little unaccustomed to eating. However, there are forests all around, and there are many small animals in the forest. Shiyu raised his hand to release two water-style clones. Let them go catch some game and come back. After a while, a water-style clone came over carrying two rabbits. Shiyu skinned and removed the internal organs, skewered the rabbit, made a simple wooden frame, and roasted it on the fire. Half an hour passed quickly. Shiyu's rabbit meat test has not yet passed, and the calculation of the great sage has been completed. Leaving the job of grilling the meat to the avatar, Shiyu began to jump onto the stone pillar beside him. Congratulations to host for getting a new skill, and the limit of the double blood successor has changed. Double blood successor boundary change, can use two blood succession boundaries at the same time, and at the same time quickly find and maintain the balance of the two blood succession boundaries for a period of time. Shiyu had been able to release two kinds of blood succession boundaries at the same time before, but the reason why he didn't last for too long was actually because he didn't find the balance of the two blood succession boundaries. Moreover, ice escape and boil style are the opposite, and the blood succession limit is more difficult. Closing his eyes, Shiyu began to try again to launch two kinds of blood succession boundaries at the same time. Soon a burning sensation appeared in the left half of the body, and a cold feeling appeared in the right half of the body. The moment the two forces appeared, white smoke began to rise from the periphery of Shiyu's body. The wings formed by the condensed white air behind him emerged again. Around Shiyu's body, there seemed to be streamers formed by the alternating condensation of steam and cold air, and Shiyu's hair also gradually rose slowly. However, in his body, Shiyu felt that the two forces were able to maintain mutual non-aggression 1 second, but the two forces began to influence each other in the next second. The same situation as before, but now Shiyu suddenly feels the delicate balance between the two forces as they interact with each other. Chakra who controls the two blood succession boundaries. Immediately afterwards, the strange feeling reappeared. Shiyu felt hot and cold intertwined in his body. The two different feelings seemed to be mixed together, but they didn't merge. It was just a gust of hot water coming from the cold water, but it was strange that it didn't mix. But soon Shiyu separated the two feelings, and Shiyu was also a little strange for this cold one person who kept changing. But not completely separated, Shiyu temporarily combined the two forces according to the appearance of the yin and yang fish in the Taiji diagram, while forming a balance. There is a little bit of hot air in the cold air, and a small amount of cold air in the hot air. The next second, Shiyu opened his eyes. At this moment, Shiyu's eyes seemed to be steaming with terror. Hands up. Pull out the ninja sword Zugetsu behind him. The moment the blade was unsheathed, a layer of ice appeared faintly. Sliding across the air, leaving a white trail, the white steam formed the trajectory of Shiyu's blade. With the explosion of chakra in Shiyu's body, the power of the two blood successors was also released. Shiyu held the blade in his left hand, and the heat rose. Behind. A pair of wings made of white gas slowly unfolded, 6 meters long. The ground on the left side is filled with hot air, and there are even signs of being slowly corrupted, while the ground on the right side is covered with frost, and the cold air rises in the blink of an eye. Shiyu freely controls the two powers alternately. However, the two forces do not affect each other. In the cold frost, there is scorching hot steam that is also corrosive. This surprised Shiyu very much. The two kinds of blood successor boundaries burst out their own power at the same time, and at the same time, they can complement each other and interfere. High temperature and low temperature coexist. In this state, I seem to have completely mastered the temperature. Stare at a boulder ahead. Freeze your hands. The cold air that drifted over in an instant turned the stone into ice, and in the next second, Shiyu's crescent moon pierced straight into it. Boil style broke out. Corrosion and melting of stone directly and easily from the inside. 583 yen. The stones are frozen and brittle, plus the corrosion of boil style. The inside melts and the outside bursts. The boulder 5 or 6 meters wide was broken down instantly by Shiyu with ease. If this is a person, the death image is too miserable. Good. Not bad. Double blood inherited boundary change, this ability is very good. Shiyu also noticed the white wings behind him. Can this fly? Obviously it is impossible, but the wings made of gas, how could it be possible for Shiyu to fly? But these wings are condensed by very powerful steam and cold air. Because of their existence, this strange effect of alternating hot and cold from being controlled by Shiyu will appear around Shiyu. Forget it, although I can only look at it, it's not bad to just look at it. Simultaneously control 2 kinds of blood inheritance boundaries, which makes Shiyu very excited. It seems that the most important thing has been forgotten. Great Sage, can host start the calculation of the fusion of the 2 blood successors? Forehead. Of course. Let's get started. The fusion of blood successor boundaries is my ultimate goal, and the change of double blood successor boundaries is just incidental. Great Sage, prompt that due to the difficulty of this calculation, the assistance of the host is needed. Episode 93, Shiyu whose conscious starry sky disappeared. Great Sage, need the assistance of host. This was the first time Shiyu heard the Great Sage say such a thing. Although Shiyu was also assisting the Great Sage in the development before, but in fact, even without Shiyu's help, the Great Sage can also complete the development. It's just that it takes a relatively long time. But this time it seems to be different. How do you want me to help you? Great Sage, this calculation requires a lot of data, and the host needs to provide help with data collection, so how can I help with data collection? Great Sage, need the right to use the host's body, use your own body? You mean, you want to use my body to collect data? Great Sage, yes, Shiyu thought about it, but there is no big problem. The key problem is when the Great Sage dominates his body, what will happen to his consciousness? As soon as he thought of this question, the Great Sage immediately gave an answer. Great Sage, host will enter a deeper level of consciousness, for host it is only a moment, that means it's like falling asleep. And just for a moment? That's no problem at all. Okay, alright. Great Sage, authorized by host, is controlling host's body, estimated calculation time 72 hours, what? 3 days? In 3 days, this guy has to dominate his body for 3 full days. Wait, didn't you say a moment? Shiyu's eyes suddenly went dark. Great Sage, host's body has been taken over successfully, and Shurkai is used to analyze host's physical condition. Hunger degree, good. Cell status, good. Mental state, good. You can start data collection, start. Boom. In an instant, the amount of chakra in Shiyu's body exploded. Shiyu tries to keep a skill column with chakra refining technique as much as possible at all times, which leads to the increase of chakra huang for such a long time. Now compared with ordinary people, Shiyu's chakra has come 1,000 times faster. This amount of chakra is barely 10 times that of Naruto. And if such a huge chakra is allowed to be controlled by Shiyu himself, I am afraid that it will not be able to burst out in an instant. But under the control of the Great Sage, the chakra in Shiyu's body exploded directly, without even any preparations. The chakra that erupted directly began to form a huge chakra pool around Shiyu. Chakra's thread wanders in all directions. Shiyu's eyes glowed faintly. Chakra change data collection starts. Immediately afterwards, the chakra that erupted from the chakra pool turned into silk threads, intertwined in the air continuously. If someone is here at this moment, I'm afraid they will be scared stupid on the spot. Can this level of chakra control be achieved by humans? Now the Great Sage controls Shiyu's body, but Shiyu's own consciousness has come to another world. The Great Sage dominates Shiyu's body and links Shiyu's consciousness, which is equivalent to Shiyu linking with the Great Sage. What the Great Sage gained in this process was the power to control Shiyu's body. And Shiyu also gained something. What he got was part of the Great Sage's ability to analyze and calculate terror. For Shiyu, he is now in a starry sky. As if in the cosmic space, beams of light continuously passed by Shiyu's side. And from these lights, Shiyu can feel a lot of ninjutsu, chakra control, even fighting, physical skills, and many other incomparably exquisite skills. It even seems to empathize, as if just touching these lights, that superb ninjutsu control is performed by Shiyu himself. The physical combat from pervert to ultimate is exactly what Shiyu has experienced. At this moment, Shiyu was frantically absorbing these things, and for him, only a few seconds had passed. However, outside time has actually passed a whole day. The great sage controlled Shiyu's body and stayed in the stone forest for a whole day. From dark to dawn, and then to dark again, Shiyu never left here. When you are hungry, the water-style avatar on the side will deliver something to eat, allowing Shiyu to replenish his energy immediately. If you are mentally tired, sit down cross-legged and start a quick recovery of your mental strength. And even during the rest time, the great sage's data collection did not stop, but dominated Shiyu's subconscious mind to make changes in chakra. Although the efficiency is relatively poor, the data is also being collected in an orderly manner. And now, Shiyu's home. Masano is knocking on the door. Shiyu, open the door. It's me. Uncle Masano, I heard that you have completed your first mission, and I'm here to celebrate with you today. How is it? Does being a ninja feel like you imagined? Masano smiled, ready to teach Shiyu some tips on being a ninja. Of course, it is not about combat, but how to deal with some troubles when performing tasks. But after knocking for a long time, no one in the room responded. Masano was a little puzzled. Shiyu should be at home at this point in time. And just finished the task. Shiyu should be a rare rest time. What is this kid doing? Masano thought for a while and prepared to go back, and left a note at the door, asking Shiyu to come to him tomorrow. However, the next day, Masano waited until noon and still did not see Shiyu coming to find him. Immediately a little anxious, rushed to the door of Shiyu's house, knocked on the door again, still no response. Masano came to the door of Haifeng's house not far away. Did Haifeng, Shiyu, go home yesterday? Hearing the words, Haifeng was stunned for a moment. It seems that he didn't hear anything. Didn't he just carry out the mission of Zhao's? He should have rested at home long ago. No one. What? Nobody allowed? As a ninja, at a distance of several steps, if the door of Shiyu's house is opened, Gale can still detect it. He didn't notice that the door of Shiyu's house was opened, and he thought Shiyu was resting at home all the time. The two came to the door of Shiyu's house and broke in directly. The note on the door has not been touched. This also means that Shiyu never came back. There was no one for more than a day, so it is impossible for Shiyu to go out and play for so long without going home. Shiyu is gone. Masano's expression suddenly became a little ugly. I should have broken in to have a look yesterday. Haifeng from the side patted him on the shoulder. Uncle Masano is not the time to blame himself. He needs to find Shiyu immediately. He disappeared after completing the mission, and he disappeared in Konoha. I'm afraid it's not easy. Episode 94, Depressed Danzo due to Oolong Incident. Kakashi was lying on a bench in Konoha Park, his face covered with the book, Making Love to Heaven. Taking a leisurely nap. Suddenly, someone approaches using the body flicker technique. Kakashi sat up immediately and looked at the person who appeared in front of him. Kakashi was stunned for a moment. Moonlight Shiyu? You are. Shiyu raised his head with sweat on his face. Kakashi-senpai, Shiyu, use up Shiyu, he's gone? What? Kakashi was confused. What did this guy say? Gone? How could a living person suddenly disappear? Really, Shiyu hasn't returned home for more than a day, and there is no trace of him in Sleepy Leaf Village. It was precisely because Shiyu could not be found that Moonlight Shiyu came to find Kakashi for help. After all, Kakashi was Shiyu and their guide, Jonin. Not in Konoha? Are you seriously looking for me? We can't just let it go if we don't see each other for more than a day. What's more, Shiyu also has amazing talents. If he is captured by another village, the consequences will be disastrous. Although this situation is basically unlikely, after all, people from other villages in Konoha are here, so don't even think about catching people in Konoha quietly. Go and search carefully. Don't miss any corner of Konoha. Notify Ambu's ninjas to help. Relying solely on the power of the Moonlight Blast, if you want 953 to search the entire Konoha, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. At the same time, Kakashi is going to see Naruto and Sasuke, who may have news about Shiyu. However, when Kakashi found Naruto and Sasuke respectively, they did not have any news about Shiyu. But after learning that Shiyu was missing, the two also joined the team to help find Shiyu. Kakashi continued to ask other ninjas of the same age as Shiyu. Hinata, Ino, and others were all questioned, but there were still no clues. On the other side, Ambu also began to search for Shiyu in Konoha, but did not find any trace of Shiyu. It is also impossible for Ambu to dispatch Third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen and not know about it. He summons Kakashi. Shiyu hasn't been found yet? Kakashi shook his head. I asked many ninjas of Shiyu's age, but they didn't have any clues. The only possibility now is that Shiyu left Konoha by himself. Leave Konoha? What should I do to leave Konoha properly? Third generation's expression changed several times, and then he looked at Kakashi, then look outside the village. We must find Shiyu today. CBCF, deploy all Umbu ninjas. Now there is only one problem that third generation is worried about. There is no reason for Shiyu to leave Konoha, so there is only one possibility. Either Danzo takes action, or other villages take action. Of the two possibilities, third generation believes that Danzo is more likely to take action. After Kakashi left, Hiruzen left the office directly and came to the Root Organization's base through the secret passage under the Hokage building. Danzo, who was dealing with his own problems, still didn't know how Hiruzen came to him with a convulsion. It's rare that you actually have a day to step into darkness. As soon as they met, Danzo started taunting Hiruzen. However, Hiruzen had no time to argue with Danzo. Instead, he stared at Danzo coldly and said, "What did you do, Danzo?" Danzo was stunned for a moment by this sentence. "What do you mean? Sarutobi?" Looking at Danzo's evasive eyes when he answered the question, Hiruzen was sure that Danzo had done something behind his back. It seems that Shiyu's disappearance has something to do with this old guy. Danzo, I usually let you do whatever you want, but you have to stop it. Upon hearing this, Danzo's eyes suddenly became colder. Sarutobi, since you already know, then open the skylight and speak frankly. The real Hokage of Konoha should be me. Just when Hiruzen was about to ask Danzo where Shiyu was, he suddenly heard Danzo's words. Hiruzen was stunned for a moment. What does it mean? Did this guy kidnap Shiyu to become a Hokage? Danzo has been peeking at the Hokage for more than a day or two. Of course Sarutobi knows this, but what does this have to do with him taking Shiyu away? Just when Hiruzen wanted to continue questioning Danzo further, a ninja from the Root Organization suddenly appeared. Report to Lord Danzo, a terrifying chakra wave was discovered outside the village. Terrifying chakra fluctuations? Is it an enemy? Hiruzen gave Danzo a sharp look and said, when I finish handling this matter, I'll come back to settle the score with you. It's best not to touch him. Seeing Hiruzen walk away angrily, Danzo was confused and said, don't touch him? Who to touch? Move Yamato? And how did this guy know about his cooperation with Orochimaru? Is he the Minister of Heaven? No way, how could that guy Orochimaru snitch on Hiruzen? So what was Hiruzen asking just now? Turning his head, Danzo looked at the Root Ninja aside. Did anything big happen in Konoha today? Report to Mr. Danzo, nothing serious happened, but it seems that Moonlight Shiyu is missing. Moonlight Shiyu? So just now Hiruzen was asking about that boy of his. But he mistakenly thought that the other party knew about his conspiracy with Orochimaru, and instead said something he shouldn't have said. Hiruzen will definitely notice it later. Danzo looked coldly at the kneeling Root Ninja and said, why didn't you report this to me? I was preparing to report to Lord Danzo before, but Lord Danzo was dealing with other matters at that time. In fact, we will wait a moment, so. Oops. So it's my fault? Root Ninja, I don't dare. What's going on with the terrifying chakra fluctuations outside the village? Enemy? Or something else? Now Danzo has nowhere to vent his anger, and an unexpected incident accidentally revealed his flaws. Hateful. At this moment, the Umbu ninja rushed outside Konoha village, as well as Kakashi, Moonlight Shiyu, and Sarutobi Hiruzen. Third generation Sama, did you interrupt me just now when you were looking for me? Just now Kakashi went to the office to look for third generation, but third generation was missing. Hiruzen smiled and said, yes. I used the telescope technique to search Konoha, but couldn't find any trace of Shiyu. Telescope available technique, why isn't third generation in the Hokage office? Kakashi didn't have time to ask this question. Because they had just stepped into a forest and suddenly felt terrifying chakra fluctuations. The violent wind caused by the strong chakra fluctuation shocked the third generation. What kind of existence can release such a terrifying chakra? Surprised, Moonlight Gale felt something was wrong at this moment, because he was very familiar with this chakra. Even Kakashi seemed to be stunned for a moment. The two spoke almost at the same time. Shiyu's chakra. ×2. Episode 95. Is this guy always like this when practicing? Shiyu's chakra. Third generation also felt this, even though they only met Shiyu once. But who is Sarutobi Hiruzen? How could he forget Shiyu's aura so quickly? The group stopped. Standing on different branches, looking at the rock forest area in the distance, there is a bright chakra light. The densely packed chakra threads in the air not only condense the chakra to a high degree, but also form various shapes. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is known as a doctor of ninjutsu, was dumbfounded by this kind of chakra control. Is this the noise made by that boy Shiyu? Why doesn't it look like we're fighting? The battle scene was not like this. Third generation frowned, and Kakashi and Hayate on the side also showed strange expressions. At this time, Sasuke and Naruto at the rear ignored Kakashi's previous orders and ran directly out of Konoha. And also caught up with third generation. Kakashi-sensei, have you found Shiyu? Naruto asked, while Sasuke on the side noticed the strange chakra fluctuation in the distance. This is Shiyu's chakra. Third generation glanced at Naruto and Sasuke who were coming over. Why did you let these two brats follow you? He looked at Kakashi, who also spread his hands helplessly. I asked them to wait in Konoha and not leave Konoha. Okay. It seems that these two brats did not follow the arrangement. We still don't know what is going on with Shiyu's current situation, and with such terrifying chakra fluctuations, it will be difficult to control if something goes wrong. If Naruto and Sasuke were allowed to follow them, Nine Tails would be affected and Nine Tails would riot. That's when it becomes even more difficult to deal with. Adding Uchiha Sasuke to the mix gives me a headache just thinking about it. A team of Umbu's ninjas will follow. The others will stay here and watch over Naruto and Sasuke so that they are not allowed to follow. With that said, third generation flew straight in Shiyu's direction. Kakashi and Moonlight Hayate also followed, as well as a 5-person Umbu team. A group of 8 people quickly approached Shiyu's position. Walking through the forest to the edge, you can see the rock forest. The 8 people widened their eyes at the same time, staring ahead with a look of horror on their faces. They couldn't see clearly through the forest, but what they saw at this moment was an extremely terrifying picture. No enemies. Only Shiyu. However, Shiyu was in the rock forest, and the torrent of chakra flowing around his body was constantly rolling and surging. Threads of chakra float above the head. A chakra storm of about 20 meters in diameter forms around Shiyu. Look at the strong wind formed by chakra, constantly surrounding this Shiyu. At the same time, the chakra silk threads above the head are constantly rotating, trying various changes. It can't be called a ninjutsu at all. This is simply releasing chakra out of the body. However, for ordinary ninjas, releasing chakra is useless. Only the Senju family like the first generation and second generation, with their special physiques, can form terrifying power the moment they release chakra. And now Shiyu is releasing the chakra in his body, not to mention the terrifying amount of chakra. This is simply not the amount of chakra a 12-year-old kid should have. What's even more terrifying is that Shiyu chooses to make these chakras for various transformations. This is truly terrifying. Just ask who can control chakra to this extent, let alone the thousands of chakra threads. Shiyu's body was actually covered with a coat of chakra. The coat formed by the highly condensed chakra tightly wrapped Shiyu. One after another, strong winds were stirred up by the flow of chakra. What's even more amazing is that chakra is undergoing nature transformation in front of Shiyu. ZK. A large wave of chakra is gathering crazily, carrying out chakra's nature transformation from a distance. This still confuses third generation. As a Hokage who masters the 5 types of transformation, chakra's nature transformation third generation is not unexpected, but it is different to directly control chakra to change outside the body. Because it is already very difficult to carry out nature transformation in the body, but if you want to control chakra as easily as inside the body outside the body, you need to carry out nature transformation. The difficulty is superimposed thousands of times. The only advantage of performing nature transformation outside the body is that the corresponding escape technique does not have to be released from the mouth. Just like second Hokage, it condenses water directly from outside the body and releases ninjutsu. Please give me flowers. This makes it faster, but obviously much less powerful. But in the final analysis, it is because of the strength of chakra nature transformation. If the changes outside the body are as scary as inside the body, naturally, the power cannot be reduced. Carrying out a kind of chakra's nature transformation outside the body is shocking enough. But Shiyu is doing all 3 at the same time. They are water, fire, and wind. He has mastered 3 attributes at this age. Shiyu is only 12 years old. Generally, only Jonin can master the second attribute, but considering Shiyu's strength, it can also be said to be a special Jonin level. It is not strange to master the second attribute, but Shiyu performs 3 nature transformations at the same time, all outside the body. 0. Hiruzen swallowed silently and turned to look at Kakashi. Is this how that boy usually practices? Being asked this question suddenly, Kakashi was stunned for a moment, recalling the last time he saw Shiyu practicing. Not to mention the tireless physical training, the willpower alone makes Kakashi feel terrified. Big, probably. Kakashi has never seen Shiyu perform other training. Shiyu said before that when he was training chakra control, he accidentally developed Rasengan. Now it seems that it would be strange if this guy didn't develop Rasengan. Look at the thousands of chakra threads on Shiyu's head. This pervert's scalp-numbing chakra control and ninjutsu like Rasengan are just child's play. Hayate on the side also had a numb look on his face. He originally thought that Shiyu was only talented in swordsmanship, but looking like this, he might not only be talented in swordsmanship. This guy is probably a monster. It's just that I never showed it before. At this time, Shiyu seemed to start to use water style, forming a water style clone with one hand to condense from the chakra. Then the water turned into a long dragon and surrounded Shiyu. Water style, water body technique. Water style, water dragon bomb technique. Kakashi stared dumbfounded as Shiyu released two water style ninjutsu at the same time. Could it be that he developed these all by himself? Episode 96, Monsters and Ghosts of Konoha. There should be no place for Shiyu to learn these ninjutsu. However, Shiyu is now able to use it. At the same time, Shiyu's one-hand seal is just a simple seal. There is no complete seal at all, which may also be caused by Shiyu developing his own ninjutsu. Because Shiyu has no place to learn complete ninjutsu, but ninjutsu, from Sarutobi Hiruzen's perspective, is actually not too difficult. For example, Water Dragon Bomb, you will perform water style's nature transformation, and then condense into the form of a dragon. Then increase the impact, which is actually the water style Water Dragon Bomb technique. Shiyu can easily perform nature transformation, and at the same time, with his control of chakra so perverted, it is not too difficult to accept that he can create his own Water Dragon Bomb technique. Even other water style ninjutsu, you can actually know it all. 590 is not a big problem as long as it takes time to figure it out. But the Water Dragon Bomb technique is okay, but the Water Dragon Bomb technique, can this kid create his own? Shiyu's water body looks a little different. At this time, Hayate on the side said, maybe it's the water clone created by Shiyu, based on Shadow Clone. Shadow Clone? Third Generation was stunned for a moment, who taught him the shadow points. Halfway through, he suddenly understood that Hayate knew Shadow Clone technique. It was no secret to Jonin that he was a special Jonin Shadow Clone. But I didn't expect that this kid, Hayate, would hand over such a dangerous technique to Shiyu. It's nothing to Jonin, but Shiyu is still just a kid after all. If Shadow Clone is overused, he may die. Haifeng Yu. Before Third Generation could finish speaking, Hayate quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Third Generation Sama, because Shiyu must want to learn, so I taught him, but I also told him repeatedly that he should understand that Shadow Clone cannot be used indiscriminately. Third Generation can also understand Hayate. After all, he has a genius in his family, so Hayate naturally hopes that Shiyu will be stronger. Boom boom boom. Next, Shiyu's water style was used one after another. Water Barrier, Water Turbulence, Water Palm, Water Dragon Bullet, Water Blade, Water Healing Technique, Great Waterfall Technique, Mist Shinobi Technique, Water Instant. Continuous water style ninjutsu, one after another, each water style ninjutsu made the three people exclaim. Because even Water Barrier, Shiyu's Water Barrier is completely different. A huge water circle barrier is formed around the body, and looking at the high-speed flowing water, this defense is probably not easy to break even with A-level ninjutsu. In addition, the water style ninjutsu performed by Shiyu is something Hiruzen and others have never seen before. For example, the Water Dragon's impact bomb, although the condensed water dragon is much smaller, the impact force is unprecedentedly astonishing. It directly penetrated several stone pillars in succession. It seems to be no worse than Second Hokage's water-severing wave, but Shiyu's Water Dragon Blast is a one-time long-range attack. It's not as good as the Second Hokage, which can cut like a blade. But the advantage is that it is incredibly powerful. There is also a flowing water blade in it, which gathers water onto the ninja sword to increase its power. Third Generation didn't expect this at all. These ninjutsu they knew and didn't know were performed one after another. The surprise and shock in the hearts of Third Generation became more and more intense. Is this what Shiyu really looks like? Is this the real strength of this kid? He has such power at such a young age. I'm afraid even First Hokage never reached Shiyu's height when he was Shiyu's age. And that majestic chakra, this kid's physique is so pervert. It's unbelievable. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I probably wouldn't have known that this kid had perverted to this extent. Then Shiyu made an even more frightening move to the three of them. Shiyu actually gathered water style and wind style chakra at the same time. Is this his plan to fuse the condensed blood successor limit? This kind of thing is not something a ninja of Shiyu's age can do. That is the limit of blood inheritance. However, after watching Shiyu merge wind style and water style with great ease to form ice escape chakra, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped, and then frost appeared all around. Looking at the scene in front of them, third generation was stunned. Since when was it so easy to develop blood inheritance limits? Is this true? He raised his hand and rubbed his eyes fiercely. When I realized that I had read it correctly, I was even more shocked. Monster. This kid is simply a monster. The voice of the third generation also brought the surprised Kakashi and Height back to reality. At the same time, the 5 Anbu ninjas who were following them all looked at each other. Is this what a genius looks like when he is practicing? Fusion of the blood succession limit is as simple as eating and drinking. Genius, this guy Shiyu is a true genius. Height is very happy. The more talented Shiyu is, the more hope the Moonlight clan has. Kakashi next to him frowned and said, Genius? This can no longer be described as genius, this is simply a genius. I didn't expect that I could actually see the successful fusion of the blood succession limit with my own eyes. Now that the case seems to be solved, Shiyu suddenly disappears. In order to try to integrate the blood succession limit, judging from Shiyu's terrifying chakra control and the strength of nature transformation, Shiyu also put in a lot of effort. Before they came, many attempts must have been made, and now success seems inevitable. Suddenly Kakashi thought of Zabuza's name for Shiyu, Yuki. This kid is really the Yugoi of Konoha. You're a genius. Originally, Zabuza meant that demons and ghosts are weirder existences than ghosts. However, now the title of Shiyu, the demon, has a more terrifying meaning than weird. My Konoha is lucky to have such evil spirits. Third generation is happy. However, just when Kakashi and Height were about to say something to make third generation even more excited, suddenly, the chakra on Shiyu's body 4.5 dissipated, and the surroundings returned to calm. Great Sage, data collection is completed and meets the requirements for calculating blood inheritance limit fusion. Calculation begins, body control is returned to host. After speaking, the Great Sage began to calculate, and Shiyu suddenly opened his eyes. For Shiyu himself, the passing time is equivalent to a moment. But in that starry sky of consciousness, Shiyu also gained a lot. A lot of memories flooded into Shiyu's mind. So much so that Shiyu's vision went dark and he fell down. Seeing Shiyu unconscious, Kakashi rushed out immediately. However, someone was one step ahead of him. Third Hokage hugged Shiyu who was about to fall to the ground. Kakashi looked at the third generation standing aside with empty hands, speechless. Episode 97, Gale, 2 boats, be careful not to capsize. When Shiyu was unconscious and was picked up by third generation and others, they were about to take him back to Konoha. Naruto and Sasuke, who were blocked outside the forest by Umbu's ninjas, looked at the movement ahead. There were roars and terrifying chakra fluctuations in the air. It shocked both of them. Is that all Shiyu's fault? Naruto said. Is he fighting someone? Fighting? Sasuke denied Naruto's statement. Besides Konoha, who do you think would think twice about coming to a place like this to provoke the ninjas of Konoha and dare to make such a big fuss? Unless the other party is an idiot and makes such a big noise in Konoha's territory, do you really think that all the people in Konoha are doing nothing? If you're not fighting the enemy, what are you doing? Naruto asked Sasuke. Look at the chakra threads flashing in the sky in front of you. Sasuke thought for a while, if it is really Shiyu, then he should be practicing. Practice? Naruto 08 found it a bit unbelievable that he could make such a big noise while practicing. When they saw the third Hokage returning with the unconscious Shiyu in his arms, Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other and then ran over quickly. Shiyu, what's wrong with him? Third generation did not speak, but Kakashi explained to the two of them, Shiyu overtrained and passed out. Now send him back to Konoha to rest. If everything is fine, you two should go back quickly. Too much practice? Are you really practicing? Naruto didn't expect that Sasuke was right. However, Sasuke couldn't calm down at this moment, thinking of the scene he saw before. Shiyu can achieve this kind of momentum even through his training. How far can he reach if he uses all his strength? Unknowingly, I have been surpassed so much by this guy? No. There is absolutely no way Shiyu can be left behind like this. Sasuke looked at Kakashi in front of him. It seems that he has to work hard and master that technique as soon as possible. Sasuke's fighting spirit was aroused, and Naruto was not bad either. I have been resting for the past 2 days, but I didn't expect Shiyu to be practicing so hard. He is obviously so strong. No, I have to join the group too. Naruto's words were also heard by the third generation and Kakashi. This is the change brought about by Shiyu. Naruto, and Sasuke may also be changed a lot by Shiyu. This kind of change is also what third generation is happy to see. After sending Shiyu back to Ka, he told Hayate to take good care of him. The third generation returned to their Hokage building and continued to process various documents in Konoha. At the same time, third generation also recalled the blood succession limit developed by Shiyu. Ice escape. At this age, he can develop hemorrhagic boundaries on his own. And its ice release. Kirigakure's former Minazuki clan is the blood successor family of ice release. Although this blood successor limit has no outstanding record in the ninja world, it is naturally not too weak as a blood successor limit. In the future, Shiyu's lineage will also inherit Shiyu's lineage, adding another family to Konoha with the bloodline limit. Shiyu's move to develop the blood inheritance limit not only made himself stronger, but also directly changed a family from now on. It's not certain whether transparent escape is the bloodline limit of the Moonlight clan's third generation, but ice escape will definitely become the iconic power of the Moonlight clan in the future. Thinking that Konoha will not only have one more powerful ninja in the future, but also one more powerful blood family. Third generation is also a little happy. He looked down at the document in his hand. 3. Third generation was stunned for a moment, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly, just right. It can be used to hone Shiyu's new strength. At this moment, at Shiyu's home, Hayate is sharing with other members of the Moonlight clan outside the door that Shiyu has developed the blood succession limit. Like Hayate, they learned that Shiyu had developed the blood inheritance boundary by himself, and the other tribesmen were as excited as Hayate. This means that from now on, the Moonlight clan is truly a family with blood inheritance limits. Now that Shiyu has his own blood inheritance limit, the power of blood inheritance must continue in the Moonlight clan. It's a pity that there seems to be no girls in Shiyu's generation among his peers. Masano's daughter is only 3 years old, maybe she can marry Shiyu in the future. Masano heard someone hitting his daughter, but considering it was Shiyu, he didn't have any objection, but the age difference was too big, I'm afraid. Hayate watched as these tribesmen began to think about how to pass on Shiyu's bloodline. Okay. Don't worry about this now, let Shiyu have a good rest first. You all go back. I'll stay here to guard Shiyu. There is also the limit of Shiyu's blood inheritance. Although it will be exposed sooner or later, I don't want it to be spread from the mouths of people in our family. Everyone nodded to show their understanding. After sending these people away, Hayate shook his head helplessly. As far as he knew, Shiyu already had a girlfriend. And she is the eldest lady of the Hyuga clan, Hinata-sama. Both of them have eaten the forbidden fruit. Although there is no way for Shiyu to marry a woman from the family, it would be quite good to marry the Hyuga family. The whole night passed quickly in Shiyu's sleep. When Shiyu opened his eyes again, he looked at everything in front of him. Is it your own room? Aren't you practicing in the wild? Could it be that the great sage controlled 937 his body and returned home? Just when Shiyu was confused, he suddenly felt another breath beside the bed. Turning his head to the side, he saw golden hair. This was Ino? Shiyu stood up. Although the movement was very small, Ino still noticed it. You finally woke up, Shiyu-kun. Ino, why are you here? You also said that when I came to your house to find you, who knew that your brother said that you had fainted from practicing too much? If you were practicing too, just practice. Why are you working so hard that you don't even care about your own body? Seeing Ino talking with a small mouth, Shiyu was stunned for a moment. I practiced too much and fainted, brother? Are you talking about Hayate? Was he discovered in the stone forest? It seems that a long time has passed. At this time, Hayate also walked in from outside the door. I finally woke up, Shiyu. You have worried us for a while, don't work so hard and practice in the future. Hayate said as he glanced at Ino, who was standing aside. Okay, big brother, I won't interrupt you talking to your little girlfriend. When he turned around to leave, Hayate gave Shiyu a thumbs up. Blinking at the same time, Shiyu understood what he meant. Last time I saw myself and Hinata coming out of the room in the morning, this time I saw Ino again. Gale, what a boy, you are better than me. You can actually ride on 2 boats at the same time. Be careful not to capsize. Episode 98. Great Sage enhances new functions opened. Shiyu smiled helplessly. After Hayate left, Ino's face turned slightly red. Why is Shiyu-kun's brother talking nonsense? Ino didn't say anything when she saw Shiyu. It was too embarrassing for 2 people to look at each other like this. But it seems even more wrong as soon as these words are spoken. Will Shiyu-kun misunderstand that she doesn't like him? If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have spoken, so it would have been nice to just be so quiet. But now should I say something to prevent Mr. Shiyu from misunderstanding me? While Ino was struggling, Shiyu grabbed Ino's hand and said, "What, you don't want to be my girlfriend?" "Ah. It's not me, I think, no. It's not what I mean. Whether you want it or not, since you have been misunderstood by Brother Gale, for the sake of your reputation, let's make it true." "What is this nonsense?" "Wait, is this Shiyu-kun's confession to himself?" When Ino was stunned, Shiyu had already hugged Ino, and what followed was a kiss that was as fast as lightning. Ino was immediately stunned. It wasn't until 5 or 6 seconds later that he pushed Shiyu away, waving his hands with a confused look on his face, neither moving forward nor retreating. After struggling for a long time, Ino finally chose to run away with a red face. Shiyu, on the other hand, sat on the bed with his head in his hands and smiled with satisfaction. "It's very sweet." "Shiyu-kun. What happened to Ino? I heard that you seem to be in a coma, are you okay now?" Suddenly a head popped out of the door. Shiyu suddenly panicked. Hinata. And the people who appeared next were not just Hinata, but also Maru, Choji, Naruto, Sasuke, and others. Shikamaru had guessed something by combining Ino's shy look when he left before and Shiyu's panicked look now. But looking at Hinata serving tea and water next to Shiyu. "Bah. Scumbag. After spending a long time, I sent my friends away." Although he was a little willful just now, Shiyu is more concerned about what will happen next. "I learned from Naruto and Sasuke that yesterday it was third generation and Kakashi who were leading people, and it seemed that they were Umbu's ninjas." Brought himself back from outside the village. Judging from the current situation, it should not have much impact. "I don't know what third generation they saw. At that time, my body was controlled by the great sage." After sending Sasuke and the others away, Shiyu immediately started asking the great sage. "Yesterday, when third generation found me, you didn't do anything weird, right?" "Great sage, none. The data was being collected at the time, and I just showed off the host's water-style ninjutsu and some of its power." "No? That's fine, as for showing water-style ninjutsu, it doesn't matter. This is like boiling a frog in warm water, third generation should be able to accept it." After all, he was already a swordsman genius, so it made sense to suddenly turn into a hidden water-style genius. But what Shiyu didn't know was that the great sage had even exposed the blood inheritance limit of ice release. "Okay, forget it for now. What's the situation now?" "Great sage, blood succession limited fusion successfully, calculation efficiency restored to 60%, oh. The calculation function has been enhanced by another 20%. This is just the fusion of 2 blood inheritance limits, and 20% of the power is directly restored. There is only 40% left before the great sage can fully recover. It is conservatively estimated that by developing 3 to 4 blood inheritance limits, he should be able to recover." Shiyu was also very happy thinking of this. Since the current calculation function is restored to 60%, parallel function enabled, parallel calculation, multiple skills can be calculated at the same time, but calculating multiple skills will also slow down the calculation speed. Parallel analysis, analyzing multiple abilities or multiple enemies at the same time will take up part of the calculation efficiency, depending on the strength of the analyzer. Parallel functions. Does Great Sage have any new functions? Good. This means that before, I could only analyze one skill at a time, but now I can analyze multiple skills at the same time. Even though there is no explanation, the speed of analysis and calculation will be greatly improved. It seems that this time the fusion of blood successor limits, no matter how strong the fused blood successor limit is, just turning on the parallel function is already a waste of Shiyu's efforts. The thinking acceleration function has been doubled, and the current thinking speed has been accelerated by 200 times. The acceleration of thinking is only 100 times, and now it is doubled. 200 times the speed of thinking. This means that Shiyu will become more terrifying when fighting Vice Admiral, and at the same time, the speed of cultivation will also be accelerated again. Calculation is enhanced, new functions are enabled, and thinking acceleration is enhanced. Just these 3 changes have made Shiyu very happy. At the same time, when his body was controlled by the Great Sage before, Shiyu's consciousness was also exposed to the power of the Great Sage, perhaps because the Great Sage had not yet been completely repaired. In other words, the computing space, what Shiyu gained from it is also amazing. Increased combat experience and chakra control experience. These gains are equivalent to Shiyu transforming into an experienced ninja who has experienced hundreds of battles in a short period of time. This harvest is not small. And more importantly, Shiyu feels like whenever he looks at anything now, a lot of information will flash in his mind. This information is like installing some kind of analysis or scanning device in Shiyu's mind. The specific effects seem to be somewhat the same as Sharingan's insight analysis. able to see part of the enemy's subsequent movements. Make predictions in advance. Even more wonderful places may be slowly discovered in the future. And why does this change happen? Great Sage, why am I in this situation? Is it because of your repair? Great Sage, no, maybe the host developed its brain to a certain extent when connecting with me. Develop your brain? If that's the case, can we do it again? Great Sage, linking with me does not have this function. Maybe it is just because of a system problem that caused the host to encounter a special situation. In other words, I encountered a bug again, right? Great Sage, you can say that. What if it happens again? Great Sage, host can try. However, when he tried again, Shiyu was a little disappointed. As the Great Sage said, nothing happened. He just felt that a moment passed. That's all. It seems that catching bug is not that easy. Forget it, let's take a look at the new escape technique that the Great Sage successfully fused. Episode 99, New Escape Parallel Analytical Calculus. In fact, Shiyu felt it when he woke up. This new escape technique. After the Great Sage's calculation is completed, the new escape technique will be directly mastered by him. Of course, the chakra in the body will not change in any way, only when the chakra is consumed and converted by the escape technique. Only then can this new power be expressed. Shiyu closed his eyes and began to carefully experience the new escape technique. Follow the memory in your mind. Start blasting boil style and ice release at the same time. The two chakras flowed in the body and then collided together. It was different from the smooth and peaceful formation of a new escape technique that Shiyu originally imagined. These two forces collided fiercely in Shiyu's body and merged together in a very violent way. If Shiyu's physique hadn't been strengthened a lot, Shiyu might have lost half his life just from this collision in the body. New power is born. It flowed rapidly inside Shiyu's body. Chakra continuously carries out responsible nature transformation. Finally, Shiyu opened his eyes and stretched out his right hand to activate the escape technique. A mass of white stuff slowly spread over Shiyu's palm. As Shiyu's chakra continued to be consumed, the white thing gradually expanded and soon occupied most of the room. Shiyu stared blankly at the white gas-like things in front of him, but they didn't feel like gases. What's this? Great Sage, new escape technique. Shiyu curled his lips helplessly, he'd better do his own research. I raised my hand and touched these white things. The soft feeling seemed to be more than just gas. But with a little force, it turned into a gas state and enveloped Shiyu's hand directly. But even in the state of turning into gas, it basically maintains its original shape. Shiyu was stunned for a moment. Cloud? Is this a cloud? There is no strong feeling when you put your hand in it, it just feels cool. Great Sage, confirmed, the new skill is named Yundun. When did you decide? But calling it Yundun seems to be quite appropriate. Does this thing have offensive power? Why do you feel like you're not very strong? Congratulations to host for gaining a new skill, Cloud Escape. Cloud Escape, through the fusion of double blood inheritance limits, a special gas similar to clouds can be formed. It has the ability to freely change temperature and most boil style and ice escape body effects. Host explores by himself. Is this the end of the introduction? Possess most boil style and ice escape abilities. So, has boil style's acidity been preserved? Shiyu was thinking when the clouds in front of him suddenly became darker. Although it didn't turn completely black, it looked like a cloud. At the same time, the form has also changed. It is no longer the marshmallow-like clouds before, but closer to mist. And when it came into contact with Shikamaru and others who were looking at the fruit basket he was carrying, it melted directly. Seeing the fruit basket melting in the blink of an eye, Shiyu quickly stopped his cloud escape. The clouds and mist slowly dissipated. So corrosive. This is no worse than boil style, blade of heat breath. Shiyu is now a little interested. In this case, let's study the new escape technique. Of course, it's still not possible at home. You have to find a more spacious place. But Shiyu had just left the house and hadn't had time to go too far. Hey-8 suddenly appeared and stopped Shiyu. Are you going to practice again? Shiyu nodded. What's wrong? Go. But next time you practice, don't work as hard as before, and you have to take me home at night, otherwise your uncle Jingya will also be worried. Shiyu nodded. Okay, I understand. Shiyu also knew about this own incident, so it would be impossible to do it again. But this time to develop a new escape technique, Shiyu still has to go outside Konoha village. You can't go to the rock forest before, and it's not very private there. I found another hidden mountain forest. Shiyu began to try to release the power of Yundun. This released a large cloud, and under the control of Age Shiyu, these clouds floated to the treetops and stopped and did not continue to rise into the sky. The cloud in normal state does not seem to have any attack power. But with Shiyu's thought, after the acidity began to increase, it immediately began to change. All the trees shrouded in clouds were directly corroded instantly. Directly into a piece of residue. This powerful effect is indeed very strong. And since they are clouds, then they should be able to rain acid rain. The great sage begins Shirkai analysis and calculation. Under analysis completed, it is feasible to use cloud escape to release acid rain. Calculation starts. The calculation is completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the new skill cloud escape acid rain. The analysis and calculation were completed in an instant. Not bad. This speed is what Shiyu wants now. Along with Shiyu's seal, acid rain fell, and the effect of this acid rain was as terrible as Shiyu thought. A big tree was shrouded in acid rain and was completely corroded in almost a few seconds. Terrible power. Cloud. Since it is a cloud, doesn't it mean that I can control all kinds of weather? Start a parallel analysis. Cloud analysis successfully starts calculation. Snow cloud analysis successfully started calculation. Lay-in analysis successfully started calculation. Calculation completed. In almost less than 3 seconds, various cloud patterns envisioned by Shiyu were successfully calculated. Clouds have the ability to rain and acid rain. Snow cloud has the ability to remove snow and hail. Thunder cloud, needless to say, the calculation took the longest 2 seconds, and the cloud path can be used to release thunder. This is real thunder, not the lightning style formed by chakra changes. The power is different. It is the result of taking advantage of natural changes, which is equivalent to integrating the power of nature. Among the 3 different cloud types, rain and snow seem to be the most useless because they cannot cause any strong damage. But Shiyu feels that it can be used as an auxiliary ability, and it is very helpful to use water style and ice escape. But now it seems that although Yundan is very strange, Shiyu feels a problem. That is, in a one-on-one battle, these cloud release ninjutsu may not be of much help, but the ability to rain and snow can provide powerful assistance. Yundan. The most important ability is to deal with a large number of enemies. The ability to control the weather. Not to mention hail, acid rain, thunder, etc., even rain and snowstorms are at the mercy of the weather. It was enough to cause a large group of ninjas to suffer heavy losses. And more importantly, Shiyu thought of something that made Shiyu even more excited. Since it is a cloud, if its density is increased, will it become a cloud that can carry a certain weight? Episode 100, Yundan Development. Shiyu's wonderful idea. As soon as this idea came up, he asked the great sage to analyze and calculate it. The same thing basically takes less than 3 seconds. Calculation completed. Congratulations to host for getting new skill, somersault cloud. Shiyu's eyes widened when he heard these 3 words, and his joy could no longer be controlled, overflowing. Then Shiyu raised his hand to form a seal. As the chakra surged, a cloud like white marshmallow appeared in front of Shiyu. Shiyu jumped up. Immediately, he controlled the somersault cloud and began to soar easily in the sky, and the speed of the somersault cloud surprised Shiyu. Pretty fast. This is the ability to fly, although it does not rely on wings to fly or float out of thin air. But the feeling of flying freely on somersault clouds still made Shiyu feel good. If we talk about cloud escape after increasing the density, the clouds created have strong buoyancy and can drag things up. Then Shiyu has a new idea. Yenyun. Although it is called flame cloud, it does not mean that flames are incorporated into the cloud, but that it creates a cloud that can drag up an entire island, just like 4 Emperors Kaido. The Great Sage opened Shirkai analysis. Great Sage, analysis completed. Theoretically, the Yenyun envisioned by host can be successfully developed, but the actual chakra consumed will be very large. The current chakra amount of host is not enough to support consumption unless the passive skill bar is used. As long as it can be developed, just because there is no way to afford that level of consumption now, does not mean that it will not be possible in the future. In short, you have to master the calculation first, and if you really can't rely on the passive skill bar, you can make cloud escape cost-free. Calculation in progress, 10%. Finally, the percentage figure appeared, and I thought it would be completed instantly again. However, even if the percentage figure appears, it does not consume much time. In just 10 seconds, the calculation was completed. Congratulations to the host for gaining a new skill, Yundu Yenyun. Shiyu tried to make a flame cloud, but the flame cloud was black. It doesn't matter what the color is, what matters is that it can lift an incredibly heavy object. Shiyu controlled the flame cloud and began to penetrate towards the ground. Subsequently, as Shiyu's chakra continued to be consumed, 1/10 of the chakra area was consumed in a short period of time. In exchange, a piece of land about 15 meters in diameter was completely dragged up by Yan Yun. It seems that it is not a problem to drag up an island or a mountain as imagined. The only problem is the consumption of chakra. This can be solved temporarily by relying on the skill bar. The successful development of Yan Yun made Shiyu more interested in developing Yandu. As mentioned before, the clouds created by Cloud Escape have most of the abilities of Boil Style and Ice Escape. So after increasing the density so that the clouds have a certain carrying capacity, can the clouds also be condensed into a persistent shape? The specific idea is actually based on two characters. Both are characters who use smoke abilities in Shiyu's memory. One is Smog, the smoke fruit ability user in the pirate world, and the other is Mo Laowu in the hunter world. Both of them use smoke as their ability. Although Shiyu calls this ability cloud, judging from the current situation, it can also do what Yenyuan can do. Especially after the condensed somersault cloud is successfully condensed, the gas that forms the cloud can be solidified. Even if the strength of clouds can reach the level of iron, it may not be possible to achieve cloud iron. The Great Sage will analyze and calculate it. In analysis, the host idea is feasible, but the power of Yundun needs to be continuously enhanced. To enhance the power of Yundun, you can simply hang it on the skill bar, and then start practicing like crazy. I believe it shouldn't be a big problem if you don't have to reach the level of Yun Tai to reach the strength of wood. Calculation in progress. Congratulations to host for mastering the new skill, Cloud Escape, Cloud Mist Solidification Technique, Cloud Release, Cloud Mist Solidification Technique, abandoning the effects of Boil Style and Ice Release, increasing the toughness and solidity of Cloud Release, which can form clouds that cannot be cut open, can effectively trap enemies, and at the same time have strong defense power. Calculation in progress. Congratulations to host for acquiring a new skill, Cloud Escape, Cloud Mist Solidification Techniques Derivative Ninjutsu, Cloud Mist Cage, Yundun, Cloud Mist Cage. Create a very tough and strong cloud and mist cage to trap the enemy. Although it has no attack ability, once the enemy is trapped, it will be extremely difficult to escape. Having developed Yundun to this point, Shiyu feels that there is still more room for development in the Yundun technique. 0, please give me flowers. It even seems that Shiyu doesn't need to think by himself now. The Great Sage himself can do the calculations just now and develop all the derived cloud release ninjutsu. Very nice. In that case, let the Great Sage do the calculations. Let the Great Sage do the calculations, and among all the calculated ninjutsu, you can select the useful ninjutsu yourself, or the ninjutsu with the correct direction and idea for further calculation. Wouldn't that be great? Great Sage, from now on, based on the ninjutsu I have mastered, I will conduct all-round calculations on Yundun. The offensive, defensive, and auxiliary ninjutsu are all calculated. Each calculation will calculate at least 10 ninjutsu for me. For example, the offensive ninjutsu calculation will calculate 10 at the same time, and each ninjutsu must have a 100% 30 differences. 0. Great Sage, understand, analysis begins. Estimated initial calculation, 10 skills, calculation time of 6 hours. Does it take 6 hours to calculate 10 skills? It's still pretty good. Just calculate according to the 3 directions of attack, defense, and assistance. Then one calculation will take 6 hours, and you can calculate 4 times a day. Let's first see how many useful ninjutsu can be obtained after completing the 4 calculations. The development of Yundun is here for the time being. These ninjutsu have been enough for Shiyu to be familiar with for a while. And the next thing to do is rest. It's not that Shiyu is tired, but it's better today with Shikamaru and others, because each class has basically completed their first mission after becoming genin. They should have a good time with each other. Also, Uncle Masano has gotten better with Shiyu and wants to have a good chat together. Uncle Masano also wants to celebrate Shiyu. Shiyu now sees that it is almost time and is ready to return to Konoha to attend the party of Shikamaru and others. Just in time to try the speed of somersault clouds. Shiyu performed somersault cloud and immediately flew towards Konoha. Right now, Third Hokage is in the office, explaining to Kakashi. Shiyu has such a talent, so he needs to hone it carefully. It will be just right for this mission. Look at it. After reading the information in his hand, Kakashi raised his head and looked at Third Generation in surprise. Third Generation Sama, are you planning to cultivate Shiyu's prestige? Third Generation smiled and did not answer.